Hi, I'm Nils Mönkemeyer, and this tutorial, my Händler Masterclass, is for the charming little piece from Glazunov, the Élégie, a beautiful little jewel that I want to help you play even more beautiful than you probably already do. The key to that, because if you look at the whole structure, it might seem like, oh, it's all the same and la 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 la, the same rhythms, but no, look very closely. The key to finding different characters lies actually in the accompaniment. And for me, that's one of the signs that this piece is by a first-rate composer, because there are no repetitions that are exactly the same, always little changes. So it starts with this gorgeous, almost like a gondola in Venice. And you start your little story. So over that, you unfold the first melody. Then the piano accompaniment changes in bar 7, and instead of going in ja, 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 he changes it to 3/8 notes. So the bass is 1 going with the melody, and the you have the 8th note coming after. So this means I would change the character slightly to a bit more fluent, less resistance, and go a bit swingy. Then to change back to the main theme and to the main character in bar 11. There's another indicator what to do in bar 13. When you look at the piano part for the first time, there is not an accompaniment, but the piano gives a little comment and he writes a long line. No broken chords, so actually the ongoing movements stop for a second before he resumes then in bar 15, where you can go back to old swingy self. Now, for your own sake, to have a really good strategy and not get lost in all the little details that he writes, or like around the second page, you might feel like, okay, now what's happening? Mark the part for yourself. You can take it in another color, like with a pencil in blue or whatever you can, what works for you. And I personally like, especially if a piece is not so obviously composed where to go and where to release, etc., that you mark with like some lines and an arrow, marking the low and the high points of the piece, also of each phrase. So do you go to the first beat and release, or do you go maybe to the middle of the bar and sing the line inside, and don't think in bar lines. The bar lines are quite misleading. Very often the lines go over it or on the second beat, and then they don't, so that you are very aware of that and show this, of course not with the raised index finger, just by the by to your audience. And in general, I do think that this piece is not a piece of grand gesture, it's actually a piece of tender words that are spoken maybe intimately and privately. So you don't need to go all out. Play it a bit like privately for yourself. And it's also exactly that kind of piece. You would put it as an encore maybe, and charm and wave goodbye, or you could play it for friends or in a more intimate setting if you need a small piece to fill the program. For that is absolutely perfect. Now, one thing that we need a lot in this piece are various bow changes and bow speeds. So already in the beginning, you have 2 long bows, fast, long, fast, long, long. So when you want a long phrase and the faster bows pop out all the time, then you destroy it. So either you have a very good strategy to take less bow during the faster and smaller units, or you release the bow if you need to take more bow. And Tabea Zimmermann, she made a very nice indication here to play an upper or lower half, and I think that is a very good hint. And you should always have a good strategy for that. And I would even mark it in great detail first when you start learning the piece, so it's not just that suddenly you are somewhere at the tip and need to quickly go to the frog. Another thing that this piece asks for, and you have various possibilities to use, are the glissandi. Already in the beginning, it is a beautiful moment. Giving this little lilt and a little glissando is very nice. Now, as a general rule for glissandi, you know there are two different ones, called classical and romantic shift. The classical shift, being called that way because the next reached note is played purely, means you do the glissando with the finger you played previously, and you place the next finger just when you arrive in the right place. The romantic shift, giving a glissando with the note you will play next. That means that would be the classical shift, and when you glissando with the last note, that would be the romantic shift. Now, any glissando can work, and the more fixed and with the more the pressure is of your finger, the more the glissando will sound juicy. So if you aim for, which maybe is a bit much, but whatever floats your boat, means you would have to put the finger quite intensively as if you already play a normal note and go like this, like a really slow movement for the shift. If you want it less and a bit more discreet, or maybe just a scent of glissando, then you could release the finger. The more you do that, it will almost disappear and just be like a beautiful little connection that maybe a singer would do. So in this piece there are various of those, or you can add them as you like, and it's very interesting if it's not always the same. Other than that, I would like to indicate a small thing that is also very nice as a variation. From doing long bows and faster bows, there's also the variation of a banana bow, meaning you do little swings like a banana shape with the bow, with the frog in your hands, with your lower arm and your upper arm together. Basically just doing this, while never stopping the bow and going on with the sound. And that will create a little lilt without stopping the melody. Which, for example, you could use in bar 7. If you repeat that too often, it gets boring, so just do it sometimes and then you go back to long 9. That's generally nice in this piece, to just give hints and not be too obvious. Now, one thing about the left hand too, when you change your bow, remember not to press too much on it so you have a light feel and not too much resistance, and let the thumb move along and move along. Now, one more thing that we didn't talk about yet is the left hand, in particular, the vibrato. The vibrato itself, I think, will work much better for you if you release the knuckle, ground knuckle of your index finger from the viola with help of the thumb. So you open your hand and you move freely with the vibrato. When you have faster notes, you can go back and do them in a normal position. That means that already in the first phrase, the positions change all the time. Here, as you probably want both notes with vibrato, you would already start in this position, then go back, because maybe you don't want to vibrate all notes. Open the hand again and stay open for the whole phrase. And so on. So mostly the faster notes are closer, like in a normal technical position, and the others are with an open position. The vibrato itself should be very relaxed and easy for you. If you have to work very hard for the vibrato, it will take away of the charm. So in order to do that, remember to relax every finger you're not using. And also remember how the vibrato would be more free if you use every movement to create it. Now, I don't have a table in front of me, but you can sit at the table and just practice for a minute to have your hand in the air, let it fall down gently on the table, and then do a vibrato, so that the movement of falling initiates and instigates the vibrato movement. Usually we would do put down, vibrate. This time it should be all coming at once. And you do that with every finger, and then you do the same on the viola. Yeah, and that would mean that all fingers are put down gently, not too heavily percussioned, and with a very light touch, that the first knuckle of the finger is immediately free to vibrate. And then it helps to play the whole piece without any rhythm, just in a legato, and play it so that the left hand can know where to actually open for vibrato and go down. And then on longer notes, you could make a little stop and find the most beautiful vibrato you have and go on. Yes, I like this, so I'll go on. Yes. And so on. So just feel every finger, what you have to do to make it the most beautiful. There's only one last thing to talk about, and that is the Animato that we find in bar 25. There it is a little bit different. He writes pianissimo, and for the first time he writes long lines, and interestingly so, over 2 beats. So it's not in the regular grouping like before. And so on. In this point, pull the bow, no portato, pure legato, don't do any extra movements, make a round choreography with your elbow for the string crossings, lift and put down gently the left hand, prepare the string crossings in the left hand early, so the bow doesn't, when the bow arrives, the left hand is already there and you have no gaps in the sound. And relax and flow with the sound. So that is a very different part. And the animato, meaning moving a bit forward, but in the softest dynamic, means that you cannot have any tension or resistance in your body in order to do so. If you do all these little things that we talked about and have a very clear concept and then enjoy this beautiful thing, you will have a lot of joy with this piece, because it's a very charming, precious little thing that we often overlook. Thank you for joining me at this tutorial for Händler Masterclass. I wish you lots of success.